AITA for exposing my wife's so-called protector after he threatened me at dinner? I'm Edward, 40, and when this all happened, Celeste had been my wife for 9 years, which was long enough for me to know exactly how she took her coffee and exactly when her smile stopped reaching her eyes. I still bought the oat milk she liked every Sunday morning, even after she started acting like my calmness was the problem instead of the only thing holding our marriage together. For most of our marriage, Celeste and I were steady. Not movie perfect, not the couple that posted long anniversary captions every few months, but steady in the way that makes you believe a life is being built brick by brick. We had a shared checking account, a shared calendar, a grocery list that was mostly oat milk, paper towels, eggs, and whatever snack she was suddenly obsessed with that week. We had routines, so ordinary they felt like proof. Sunday mornings, I would go out early, bring back coffee, and set hers on the counter before she came downstairs. She liked the lid off for a minute because she said coffee tasted better when it had room to breathe. I used to think knowing that meant I knew my wife. Then, about 2 years before that dinner, Celeste started describing our life like it was a sentence she was serving. At first, it was small. "You're so predictable," she said one night while we were cleaning up after dinner. I thought she meant it as a joke. I thought predictable was better than chaotic. She rinsed a plate harder than necessary. Of course you would. A week later, I was boring. Then I was too controlled. Then I was emotionally unavailable. Then I listened like I was collecting evidence, instead of feeling anything. That one hit differently because I was trying. I really was. I put my phone face down at dinner. I asked more questions. I suggested counseling. I planned a date night at a place she had mentioned once in passing, and halfway through the meal, she stared at the candle between us and said, "This feels like something you scheduled because you read an article." I remember looking down at the menu even though we had already ordered, just to give myself somewhere to put my eyes. "Then tell me what you need," I said. Not as a trap. "I'm asking." Celeste leaned back and gave me that tired little smile she had started using when she wanted to make me feel small. See? Even that sounds like a meeting. No matter what I did, the finish line moved. If I gave her space, I was distant. If I asked where she was going, I was controlling. If I stayed calm in an argument, I was cold. If I showed frustration, she would lift her eyebrows and say, "This is exactly what I mean." That was when Damon became a regular name in my house. At first, he was just someone who understood her. That was the phrase Celeste used over and over. Damon gets it. Damon actually hears people. Damon doesn't make everything feel like a performance review. I had met Damon a few times through mutual friends. He was 41, loud in the way some men are loud when they confuse volume with confidence. He had a habit of leaning back in chairs like every room belonged to him. He smiled with his mouth more than his eyes. I didn't like him, but I didn't have a reason to call him a threat. Then he started calling late. The first time, it was almost midnight. I came into the kitchen for water and found Celeste whispering by the back door, one hand wrapped around her phone, her voice so low I could only catch pieces. "Everything okay?" I asked. She pressed her phone against her chest so quickly it was almost comical. "Damon's going through something," she said. "Don't make it weird." I asked if everything was okay. And the way you asked says everything. I stood there holding a glass of water, feeling like I had walked into a conversation where I was already the villain. A normal husband probably would have pushed harder. I told myself I was being respectful. I told myself adults could have friends. I told myself jealousy was ugly, and I didn't want to become the kind of man who searched for problems until he found one. So I gave her room. She used it. Damon started showing up in our group chat. Then he started appearing at dinners with mutual friends. He called Celeste C, before I had ever heard anyone else use that nickname. The first time he said it, she laughed and said, "Nobody calls me that." He grinned. Maybe no one else was brave enough. Everyone chuckled like it was harmless. I looked at Celeste, waiting for even a small correction. She just smiled into her drink. After that, the joke started. "Careful," Damon said one night when I reminded Celeste we had an early morning appointment the next day. "Spreadsheet husband has entered the chat." Celeste laughed harder than the joke deserved. Another time, I was telling a story and Damon interrupted with, "Relax, Edward. Not everything has to be filed alphabetically before you say it." I gave him a flat look. "Do you interrupt everyone? Or am I special?" The table went quiet for half a second. Celeste touched my arm under the table, not affectionately. More like a warning. "He's joking," she said. Don't be so sensitive. That became the rhythm. Damon poked. Celeste laughed. I stayed calm. Then somehow my calmness became proof that I was cold, and any response became proof that I was insecure. One night, after Damon had called her 3 times during dinner, I waited until she came back from taking the last call in the hallway. Is there something between you and Damon that I need to know about? I asked. Celeste looked at me like I had thrown a drink in her face. Wow. It's a fair question. No, Edward. It's not. It's pathetic. I swallowed the first thing I wanted to say. Then answer it. She folded her arms. You are not man enough to handle me having male friends. That sentence stayed with me longer than I admitted. I didn't yell. I didn't call her names. I didn't demand her phone. I slept badly that night, woke up early, and still bought the oat milk. Looking back, that was one of the saddest parts. How many ordinary errands I kept doing while she was teaching herself to see me as an obstacle. The first person who said out loud what I was trying not to think was Malcolm. Malcolm and I had been close for years. He was the kind of friend who didn't rush to make you feel better if the truth would protect you more. He came over one Friday night after Celeste left for what she called a girls' dinner. I had made enough food for 2 out of habit, then put half of it in the fridge untouched. We were standing in the kitchen when my phone buzzed with a bank alert. A restaurant charge. 2 entrees. 2 cocktails. Not the place Celeste told me she was going. I stared at the notification. Malcolm saw my face and said, "Don't text her while you're angry." I'm not angry. He looked at me. Fine, I said. I'm angry. Still don't text her. I put the phone down on the counter. What am I supposed to do? Just watch. No, Malcolm said. You document. You think. You protect yourself. That sounds cold. That sounds smart. If she's calling you controlling before you've done anything, she's preparing people to believe it. Don't give her the scene she's shopping for. I hated how much sense that made. The first real proof didn't arrive like some dramatic movie moment. It showed up in a shared email account between a shipping confirmation and a coupon for patio furniture. Celeste had ordered a framed print for her sister's birthday, and the store still had our old household emails saved. I opened the inbox looking for the delivery date. Right under that order was a hotel confirmation. 1 room, 2 adults. A date Celeste had told me she was spending the night with a college friend after a wine and paint thing. I didn't move for a while. The strange thing about betrayal is that your mind understands it before the rest of you catches up. I knew what I was looking at. I knew there was no innocent explanation for that room, that date, and the way she had guarded her phone. But a quieter part of me kept trying to negotiate with the facts. Maybe there was a mistake. Maybe she had helped someone book it. Maybe 2 adults meant nothing. Then I checked the bank statement. Dinner that night. Parking near the hotel. A late-night charge from the hotel bar. I forwarded the email to myself, printed it, and put it in a folder. I didn't hack anything. I didn't break into her phone. I didn't follow her. I used the accounts and records we both had access to because she had gotten comfortable leaving evidence in places she assumed I was too defeated to look. The doorbell camera hurt worse than the hotel confirmation. I checked it because the timeline had gaps. Celeste had told me she was homesick on a Tuesday. I had been out most of the afternoon. I remembered because I had texted her asking if she needed soup, and she had replied, "No, just sleep." The clip showed Damon walking onto our porch with a bottle of wine in a brown paper bag. He checked his reflection in the glass beside the door before he knocked. Then Celeste opened the door. She was wearing the gray sweater she used to steal from my side of the closet on cold mornings. Her hair was messy, not careless, but styled to look effortless. She smiled before he said anything. She smiled like someone had finally arrived. I saved the clip, then closed my laptop and sat in the dark for almost an hour. The affair would have been enough to end the marriage. The setup was what changed me. A few days later, Celeste accidentally sent a message meant for someone else into a family group text. She deleted it fast, but not before the preview flashed across my screen. If he loses it at dinner, they'll finally see what I've been dealing with. I stared at it, my thumb hovering over the notification. Dinner. At that point, I didn't even know there was going to be a dinner. I screenshotted the preview before opening the chat. By then, the message was gone. Celeste had replaced it with a laughing emoji and some comment about her cousin's casserole, like nothing had happened. Later that night, her cousin replied to her privately, but Celeste had left her laptop open on the counter, and the notification preview popped up in the corner while I was walking past. Just be careful. You don't want him claiming you staged it. Staged. That was the word that made the room feel colder. I didn't confront her that night. That took more restraint than I knew I had. She came downstairs in soft pajama pants, kissed my cheek like we were still people who trusted each other, and asked if I had seen her charger. I said, by the couch. My voice sounded normal. That almost scared me. The next morning, the bank called. A transfer from our shared checking had been flagged for verification. It was a large amount, enough that moving it without discussion would have created immediate problems. The destination was an account I didn't recognize. The bank representative said my number was still listed as the secondary contact. I declined the transfer and asked for written confirmation that it had been blocked pending authorization. When I asked Celeste about it, she didn't even blink. I was moving money for safety, she said. Safety from what? From you. I waited. She lifted her chin. You've been unpredictable. That was when I almost lost it. Not because of the money, although that was bad enough. Because the lie was so clean. She had practiced it. She wasn't just having an affair and trying to sneak out. She was building a paper trail where I was dangerous before I had done anything. I have not threatened you, I said. I have not touched the account. I have not raised my hand to you. I have not even told your family about Damon. Her face tightened at his name. See, she said softly. This is exactly what I mean. I called Malcolm as soon as she left the room. He answered on the second ring. Tell me you didn't yell. I didn't. Good. Protect yourself first. Feel everything later. The next morning, Malcolm went with me to see a family law attorney. I brought the hotel confirmation, bank statements, screenshots, doorbell stills, and the block transfer notice. I expected the attorney to look shocked. She didn't. That made me feel worse. She told me not to empty accounts, not to threaten anyone, not to send emotional messages, not to confront Celeste in a way that could be twisted. She told me to preserve evidence, change passwords where appropriate, open a separate account for future deposits, and request additional verification for major transfers. The goal is not to punish her today, the attorney said. The goal is to make sure you do not destroy yourself while proving the truth. I followed that advice exactly. The final piece came from Damon himself. He left me a voicemail by mistake. I still don't know if he meant to call a friend, or if he hit the wrong name after drinking, or if arrogance just makes people sloppy. The message was almost a minute long. At first it was muffled noise, then his laugh. She's dramatic, but useful, he said. Edward probably won't do anything. He just stands there blinking like a substitute teacher. A man in the background laughed. Then Damon said, Reina thinks I'm at a client dinner. I swear, man, it's too easy. I replayed it 3 times, not because I needed to hear it again, but because I wanted to make sure rage wasn't putting words in his mouth. It was all there. Damon was lying to his wife too. Reina. I had met her 2 times. She was quiet, observant, the kind of woman who looked directly at people when they spoke. She had probably been told Damon was busy, important, needed elsewhere. Celeste had told me Damon was preparing to leave Reina. She had said it during one of our arguments, like it was proof that what they had was real. You don't understand, she had snapped. He's making changes. Now I had Damon laughing into my voicemail about how easy it was to lie to his wife and calling Celeste useful. That was when something in me stopped hoping for a misunderstanding. 2 days later, Celeste announced the dinner. She said it like she was offering peace. I think we need to clear the air, she told me, standing in the kitchen with her arms wrapped around herself. My sister will be there. A couple of friends. My cousin. Damon too, because you clearly have an issue with him, and maybe if you see people support me, you'll understand how your behavior has been affecting everyone. I let the silence sit. Damon is necessary for healing our marriage. I asked. Her mouth tightened. Don't twist it. When is it? Saturday. I made the reservation. Of course she had. Under her name. Her guest list. Her stage. I almost said no. Then I heard Malcolm's voice again. Don't give her the scene she's shopping for. So I went. But first I prepared. I bought plain manila envelopes. Nothing dramatic. No big labels across the front. I printed clean copies of everything and organized them by person. The first envelope was for Celeste. Hotel confirmation. Restaurant receipt. Parking charge. Doorbell stills. Screenshot of the deleted message preview. Screenshot of her cousin's staged warning. The block transfer notice. The second was for Damon. The voicemail transcript. Receipts showing he was with Celeste when he had told Reina he was somewhere else. Screenshots where his name, times, and places lined up with Celeste's lies. A still from my porch with his face clear enough that denial would be insulting. The third was for Reina. That one was the cleanest. Dates, receipts, screenshots, no insults, no commentary, no extra humiliation. Just enough proof that she wouldn't have to wonder if I was a bitter husband trying to hurt her. 2 hours before dinner, I emailed her. I rewrote that message at least 10 times. In the end, I kept it simple. I'm sorry to send this. I have proof involving your husband and my wife. You deserve to know before tonight becomes a performance. I will be at dinner at this time and place. I understand if you never respond. I attached only one document, the hotel confirmation with names and dates visible. For 40 minutes, nothing happened. Then her reply came in. I'm coming. That was it. The restaurant was crowded when I arrived, loud enough that people had to lean across the table to talk. It worked in Celeste's favor. Noise makes private cruelty easier because everyone can pretend they misheard. Celeste was already there wearing the green dress I had bought her for our anniversary. That detail hit me harder than it should have. I remembered the night I gave it to her. She had spun once in front of the mirror and asked if I still thought she was beautiful. Damon noticed the dress before I said a word. There she is, he said, standing like he was greeting his date. Celeste smiled. Softly. Automatically. She didn't correct him. She didn't step away. She let him look at her like that in front of me. At the table were Celeste's sister, her cousin, 2 mutual friends, and an older family member who had always liked me, but was now watching me like I might break something. Everyone had already heard a version of events. I could feel it in the careful silence when I sat down. One mutual friend, Paul, leaned toward me. You doing okay, Edward? It was not a bad question, but his tone had already decided the answer. I'd be doing better if people asked questions before jumping to conclusions, I said. He looked down at his water glass. Celeste sighed. Not a tired sigh. A signal. Edward has been under a lot of stress, she said to the table. I looked at her. Have I? Damon laughed into his drink. Come on, man. Don't start. I asked my wife a question. Celeste put a hand near her throat like I had raised my voice. I had not. Edward, she said softly, don't make a scene. There it was. The line she had brought everyone there to hear. Her cousin shifted in her seat. Celeste's sister looked between us. Damon leaned back, enjoying himself. Dinner limped along for a few more minutes. Someone talked about traffic. Someone else mentioned a family birthday. Every conversation kept circling the real reason we were there and then backing away from it. Damon finally got tired of waiting. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, his smile thin and mean. You know what your problem is, Edward? I picked up my water. I'm sure you've workshopped it. Celeste whispered, please don't. To me, not to him. Damon tapped his fork against the table, then against the edge of my wedding ring where my hand rested beside my plate. That small metallic click cut through the noise around us. You've got 10 seconds to apologize, he said, before I show this table what weakness looks like. Everything inside me went still. For about 3 seconds, I understood exactly how people ruin their own lives in public. I wanted to stand. I wanted to grab his wrist. I wanted to make him regret putting his fork anywhere near my hand. Celeste watched me with wide eyes, already preparing her frightened face. The older family member said, Edward, maybe just take a breath. Not Damon. Me. That almost did it. Instead, I reached into my jacket. Celeste's face changed first. Her mouth parted slightly, like she already knew paper could be more dangerous than anger. I placed one envelope beside her plate, one beside Damon's wine glass, and one in the empty space next to me. Damon smirked, but it looked forced now. What is that supposed to be? Options, I said. Then I looked at him and repeated the line that had been sitting in my chest all afternoon. Choose carefully. One ruins her story. One ruins yours. One belongs to Reina. Damon's face twitched at his wife's name. Celeste whispered, Edward. I looked around the table. Before anyone decides I'm unstable, you should know what this dinner was actually for. Her cousin said, this is not the place. I agree, I said, but I didn't choose the place. Celeste did. Damon did. They wanted witnesses. Celeste shook her head. You're making this unsafe. No, I said. I'm making it documented. I opened Celeste's envelope first. I didn't scatter photos. I didn't throw anything. I slid the first page toward her sister. It was the screenshot of Celeste's deleted message preview. If he loses it at dinner, They'll finally see what I've been dealing with. Her sister read it once. Then again. Her face lost color. Celeste, she said quietly, what is this? Celeste reached for the page. That's out of context. What context makes that better? I asked. She looked at me with wet eyes. You've been cold for months. You don't know what that does to a person. I slid the block transfer notice across the table. And this? Her cousin leaned forward despite herself. Celeste's voice sharpened. That was for my safety. From what? I asked. I hadn't threatened you. I hadn't touched the account. I hadn't told your family about the hotel, the restaurant, the parking charge, or Damon coming to our home with wine while I was gone. The table went silent in a way noise couldn't hide. Damon scoffed. This is insane. You've been spying on her. I opened his envelope. No hacking. No stalking. Shared email. Shared bank account. Doorbell camera on my front porch. And your own voicemail. That last part landed. Damon's smirk disappeared. I set the transcript on the table, but kept 2 fingers on it when he reached across. Careful, I said. The original is saved. His eyes flicked toward Celeste, then toward the restaurant entrance. He knew. Celeste started crying then. Not quiet tears of heartbreak. Cornered tears. The kind that arrive when a performance stops working. You're humiliating me, she said. I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt something inside me detach cleanly. No. You invited me here to be humiliated. I just refused to play my part. Paul, the mutual friend who had asked if I was okay, picked up the hotel confirmation with 2 fingers like it might burn him. Celeste's sister covered her mouth. The older family member said, Celeste, did you really plan this so he'd look unstable? Celeste didn't answer. That answer was enough. Then Reina walked in. She didn't storm. She didn't shout. She wore a dark coat, held her purse in both hands, and looked straight at Damon like the rest of us were furniture. Damon stood so fast his chair scraped the floor. Reina, what are you doing here? She looked at the empty space beside me, then at the envelope. Apparently getting the truth from a man who owes me nothing, she said. Because my husband couldn't manage it. Damon stepped toward her. Baby, it's not what he's making it look like. Celeste whispered, baby. It was such a small word. Barely a breath. But it did more damage than any speech I could have given. Because Damon didn't turn to reassure her. He turned fully toward Reina. Listen to me, he said. This is being twisted. Reina held out her hand without looking at me. I gave her the envelope. I'm sorry, I said. She nodded once, opened it, and started reading. Nobody moved. Damon tried to talk over the silence. Celeste is a friend. She was going through a difficult time. Edward has been controlling. He's making connections that are not there. Reina lifted one page. Say the hotel date out loud, Damon. He stopped. Say it. He swallowed. Reina, this is not the way to. Do not call me baby while you are standing next to her. Celeste flinched. Reina read another page, then another. Her expression barely changed, but Damon looked smaller with every second. The man who had tapped my wedding ring and talked about weakness was now sweating through a story he couldn't keep straight. First, Celeste was just a friend. Then Celeste had misunderstood. Then I was twisting things. Then the hotel was not what it looked like. Then the doorbell clip was taken out of context, which was an impressive thing to say about a man arriving at another man's home with wine. Celeste finally found her voice. You told me you were leaving, she said. Damon looked at Reina first. That was all Celeste needed to see. The table didn't erupt. Nobody cheered. Nobody clapped. Real consequences don't usually look like movie scenes. They look like people staring at water glasses, realizing they helped the wrong person set a trap. Celeste's sister pushed back from the table. I need air, she said. Her cousin whispered, I didn't know about the money. I believe that. She had helped Celeste build the stage, but she hadn't known about the trapdoor. Damon kept talking. Reina kept reading. Celeste kept looking between them, like she was waiting for someone to choose her. No one did. I stood before dessert. Celeste looked up at me. Where are you going? Home isn't the right word tonight, I said. So I'm leaving. Damon snapped. You don't get to just drop this and walk away. I looked at him. Watch me. I left enough cash on the table to cover what I had ordered, took my jacket, and walked out. The air outside felt cold against my face. My hands were steady until I reached the parking lot. Then they shook so hard I had to press them against the hood of my car. I wasn't proud in that moment. I wasn't triumphant. I was exhausted. There is a kind of anger that keeps you upright for exactly as long as you need it to, then leaves you with nothing but your own breathing. Celeste came out less than a minute later. Her mascara had smudged under one eye. She looked furious and wounded, which would have worked on me once. "How could you do that to me?" she asked. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the sentence was so completely backward that my brain didn't know where to put it. "You try to make me look dangerous so you could leave clean," I said. "You tried to move money before I knew what was happening. You let another man mock me in front of people who thought they were helping you. And you're asking how I could do that." She hugged herself tighter. "Damon manipulated me." "Maybe he did." That surprised her. I saw it. I continued. "But he didn't make you lie. He didn't make you invite me to that table. He didn't make you use words like unsafe and controlling because they sounded better than guilty. He didn't make you turn my dignity into your excuse." Her eyes filled again. I was unhappy. "I know. You didn't fight for me." "I did. You just wanted me to fight in a way that made me look worse." She looked away. For the first time in months, Celeste had no label ready. Not cold. Not insecure. Not emotionally unavailable. Just me, standing in front of her with proof and no interest in begging. Then she tried the old line anyway. "You're being cold again." I opened my car door. "No," I said. "I'm being finished." I stayed at Malcolm's that night. He didn't ask for every detail right away. He handed me a blanket, pointed to the couch, and said, "Drink water. Then sleep if you can." I didn't sleep much. Around 3 in the morning, my phone lit up over and over. Celeste called. Damon called twice. A mutual friend texted and deleted something before sending anything real. Reina didn't contact me that night, and I was glad. She deserved time to process without another man demanding emotional labor from her. The next morning, I followed the attorney's instructions. I opened a separate account for future deposits. I changed passwords on accounts Celeste no longer needed access to. I requested additional verification for major transfers from the shared account. I forwarded documentation to my attorney. I saved copies of the voicemail, the bank notice, the hotel confirmation, the screenshots, and the doorbell clip in more than one place. I didn't drain the account. I didn't hide assets. I didn't send cruel messages. I didn't post anything online. Revenge didn't look like shouting. It looked like paperwork done correctly. By Monday, the apologies started arriving. Celeste's sister left a voicemail. Her voice sounded rough. "Edward, I'm sorry. I believe things I should have questioned. I don't know what else to say yet, but I'm sorry." Paul texted, "I thought you were overreacting. I was wrong." Another mutual friend wrote, "I didn't realize she had been setting that up. I should have asked you." Celeste's cousin sent only one line. "I didn't know about the money." I believed her, but I didn't comfort her. Her guilt was hers to carry. The family group chat went quiet. Celeste hated quiet when she wasn't controlling it. Damon tried calling me from a number I didn't recognize. I answered once by accident. "You need to tell Reina you exaggerated," he said, his voice low and urgent. I almost admired the nerve. "I gave her copies of your own words. You don't understand what you're doing to my marriage." That time I did laugh. "Damon, neither did you." I hung up and blocked the number. Reina emailed me 3 days later. "Thank you for the documents. You were kinder than he deserved." I stared at that sentence for a long time. I didn't feel kind. I felt clean. Not happy. Not healed. Just clean in the way you feel after finally walking out of a room filled with smoke. Celeste came by later that week to talk about repair. That was the word she used. Not accountability. Not confession. Repair. She sat across from me at the kitchen table where we had eaten hundreds of boring dinners she once claimed were proof that we were safe. "We shouldn't throw away 9 years, she said. I looked at her hands. She wasn't wearing her ring. "You didn't throw away 9 years in one night," I said. "You threw them away one hidden message at a time. One lie at a time. One little public laugh at my expense at a time." Her mouth trembled. "I made mistakes." "No. A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill. A mistake is saying the wrong thing when you're tired. You made choices and then tried to make the consequences look like my personality." She cried then, and this time I think some of it was real. "That didn't change anything. I needed someone who heard me," she said. "And I needed a wife who didn't punish me for not being the man she wanted to blame." She looked around the kitchen, at the coffee maker, at the grocery list still stuck to the side of the fridge, at the oat milk she hadn't touched. For a second, I saw the woman I had married. Or maybe I saw the version of her I had been protecting in my head. Then she wiped her face and said, "You're still so cold." That closed the door more firmly than rage could have. The divorce process didn't feel victorious. People love to imagine exposure as a lightning strike, one clean flash that burns away the lie. In reality, consequences arrive as forms, bank calls, forwarded emails, password resets, attorney meetings, quiet mornings, and rooms that sound different because you are no longer waiting for the next lie to walk in wearing your wife's face. Celeste lost control of the story. That mattered to her more than she admitted. She had wanted to leave as the woman who escaped a cold, unstable husband. Instead, people saw the messages, the money transfer, the dinner she had staged, and the man she had mistaken for a rescuer. Damon lost the room that night. More importantly, he lost Reina's trust. I don't know what happened inside their marriage after that, and I don't need to know. The last thing I heard was that Reina had left their home for a while and Damon was suddenly very interested in counseling, which would have been funny if it weren't so predictable. As for me, I lost something too. I lost the version of myself who thought patience meant absorbing disrespect until someone else decided to be fair. I lost the habit of staying quiet just because the truth would make other people uncomfortable. I lost the marriage, yes, but by the time I walked into that restaurant, the marriage had already been gone. I had just been the last one honoring it. Some people later said I should have handled it privately. Maybe in another marriage, with another betrayal, that would have been true. But Celeste didn't want privacy. She wanted a performance where I broke and proved her right. Damon wanted a fight because he thought a fight would make him look strong and me look small. They invited the witnesses. They prepared the stage. They just forgot I was allowed to bring evidence. I didn't win my wife back that night. I won myself back. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.